No man is more professional than I. I am a 1% man. I am not above or below any man. I'm training my mind. I'm building my body. I'm connecting to my soul. I'm investing my money. Welcome to the 1% Man podcast. Let's go. 3, 2, 1. What's up, world? Welcome back to the 1% Man podcast. I have my good friend here with me, Rebecca Thomas, aka she is more than a life coach. She's a friend. She is amazing. She's a special friend to me. Guys, I got to tell you, I met Rebecca through the Be on TV
challenge. Yep.
Right, with Chris and Jen, and then ever since then, we have been talking a lot about different topics. And I think the one thing I love is that she is someone that was very honest and upfront about what she wanted to know, and also not only that, I think also just and I hate saying white ally because it sounds like we're at war, but I think she understands the struggle of Blacks and of people of color in America and worldwide. And even if she doesn't fully understand per se through personal experience, she's willing to read and to go and find the information and research. And then she never comes to me and saying, hey, can you tell me about this? She's like, hey, I read this. I felt like this. What do you feel like? It's a very forward moving conversation. So enough about me. I got to get my good friend here, Rebecca. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here and be chatting with you again.
Yes. Of course. So even before the show, so I have to appreciate Rebecca here. I'm gonna do it live publicly because she asked me, how are you doing? And I kind of deflected the question, and I was like, oh, well, I'm good. She's like, no, how are you doing? Are you overwhelmed, exhausted? I was like, and then I started talking, and I was like, I feel like I'm just bullshitting her so much right here. And I just said, you know what? I'm overwhelmed. I'm stressed. I'm not sleeping well. I'm not drinking enough water. And I think this is one of the pieces of being a 1% man is that connection piece of having people in your corner that can be honest with you, right? And Rebecca, can you speak with that? Let's just dive into that piece right there. Is in terms of having people in your corner that are honest with you, right? What does that take, and how do we find these people like you that are honest, that are transparent, that have done the work on themselves, so that way they are able to speak with authority into our lives?
Oh my goodness. So this was definitely a lesson that took me a long time to learn. And when I say a long time, probably at least 10 years to really get it down to where it was what I really needed and wanted. So when it comes to me, I always think like whatever you want, it has to be reflected from within. So if you're looking for something someplace else, stop, back up. You got to do the work inside first. So you have to become what it is that you want to attract. And you have to be that thing, because if you are not at the same level as somebody else that in that aspect or in that respect, then it's not going to be mirrored back. It might be short-lived. It might be like you might kind of try to go through the motions, but it's not going to be long-term. And so it really comes down to being that honest and transparent and holding space for yourself. And then knowing what that looks like and where your needs and your boundaries are. But then also when you meet a new friend or you have an old friend, whatever that looks like, when you come into contact with them, when you have the relationships with them, saying those things, like with you, and you were talking about, I asked you, like, how are you? I felt that you were feeling some kind of way. So this is your opportunity to just speak up and say it, and no expectation behind it, no agenda behind it. Just like, if you say it, then I receive whatever it is that you say. I have to trust that whatever I need to trust, whatever you are telling me is the truth, and let it go. And so just having those conversations and being very transparent and honest with the other person, so that you're basically mirroring those things to each other until you come to a place where you realize and you can trust that this is just how the relationship is. I can be honest with you. I can say those vulnerable things to you. There are no expectations here. And we show up for each other, but we also know where our boundaries are. And there aren't any repercussions if we don't show up how the other person might expect us to, because there aren't any expectations.
I like that. I think the biggest thing I really like that you brought was that no expectations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the hidden expectations and the dangers of that. And we were speaking before the show, talking about hidden expectations, right?
Yep.
So, because a question that was that I said, in terms of a lot of men I know, and even myself, right? We are so driven, we're so focused, we are we're such forward thinkers, and
Mm-hmm.
when we meet somebody, we a lot of times forget that not everybody is like us. Not everybody's forward thinking. Not everybody's driven. Not everybody's pushing that same envelope of like high performance like us. So how do we allow ourselves to, I guess, turn it off, to switch it off
Mm-hmm.
sometimes and to allow them to be themselves, but to still have that same expectation, but with no expectations there. I know it's a mouthful to ask
Right?
that, but
Well, it's funny because, yeah, one of the biggest things that I talk about just in talking about expectations real quick is the fact that just because you don't have any expectations doesn't mean that you don't have goals or you don't have a focus or there isn't something that you would like to work a certain way, but you're just not basing decisions on that for one, but also you're not like the other person is not obligated to show up any type of way that we expect them to. And we all have to do what really resonates with us, right? So like
yes,
we have to live our truth. We have to know who we are and be in unrealistic expectations and somebody else's standards are what have us in like probably 95% of the trouble that we're in, both on a personal level and society. So we need to get to a place where we can really learn to trust ourselves and where we can listen to that and honor to that, because that just gives the permission to others to do the exact same thing. So it's not about, then it doesn't become about expectations. You can still ask, you can still receive, you can still have things that you want to get done, but we have to honor where each other stands with that, where our boundaries are, where our priorities are. And even when you were talking about successes and, moving forward and goals and things like that, that looks different for everybody. So if we have expectations and assumptions based on that, it's not going to look the same from person to person. So if you're not having that honest communication between each other so that you can feel it out and know what that really looks like, then you're never really going to find out. You're just going to make assumptions about why somebody does or doesn't do something or show up some way opposed to another way.
got you. Okay. I'm taking notes over here because every time you talk, I feel like I have to be writing something down. You know what I'm saying? Give me all this good juicy information. So now I usually do this, and I know we skipped to it, so I want to go back to it, Rebecca. So so that way the people can get to know more about you, right?
Mm-hmm.
First is, what is your favorite color?
My favorite color, teal.
Teal. Why teal?
I swear in my past life, and I say this jokingly, but maybe there's some truth in it, that I was probably a psychologist, a race car driver, and an island girl. So I just...
Race car driver,
yes,
island girl,
and a psychologist. Like in 3 separate past lives, because those are things that really... Like, I mean, maybe all at once too. That'd be really cool. Can you imagine that person? But, but it just like teal for me... I love jewel tones in general. And when I say that, I don't mean like the bright, in your face colors. I mean like the deep, rich, like citrons and amethysts and fuchsias and teals and things like that. For whatever reason, that really speaks to my soul. But for the blue, it's like this element of water, which living in Michigan, thank goodness I live in Michigan of all the states, because we have so many lakes here, including the Great Lakes. But
yes,
but water and sun and green space are just things that feed my soul. And so like that water element really calms me and keeps me centered and just makes me like, I'm going to retire on a tropical island somewhere. Like that's just going to be a thing. So it's like a water element for me. And I'm a Cancer, so that ties in, which I'm not big into astrology, but it's a water sign. So big shocker there.
got you. Well, that fits. If you're a water sign, that fits with the island girl. NASCAR driver. I mean, the diesel fuel. I guess that's kind of water. I don't know how psychology kind of that psychologist that flows into it, but I mean, I guess the conversation is very fluid. If we want to say that, so we can make a case for that. So now the next question is: if there was one thing you could share with every man, right? Mm-hmm. You can say you wish every man knew this, and you from your past experience and your past lives that you've had, What's the one thing that you would share with each and every man?
Oh man, like to what end? In what capacity? Just a man in general, or like for a relationship, or what?
Let's touch on relationship because relationship. Let's do relationship.
Empower her. Like
Empower.
empower her. So, we were talking a little bit before this, and we were talking about not fixing things for other people. I think a huge piece of it is not taking it upon ourselves. And I think this is a big lesson for women, because women are definitely prone to doing this too, but not feeling like we have to fix everything for somebody else. So letting them have their boundaries and letting them have a space to vent and letting them do the things that they need to do and navigate life without it seeming like we're fixing everything. Like we're the ones that are trying to take control. Like it has to be whatever meets our expectations, the man's expectations, but just really empowering her and pouring the love and power into her that's already there. Like that's what we really need to enhance, is just helping women realize how amazing they are and step into that. And that doesn't mean that they don't need a man, but there's so much that each of us can do on an individual level that we look for, like permission or validation or support from somebody else when it's already inside of us. So just being able to like lift up and encourage, but also learn from their mistakes and navigate the path that they need to and find the clarity in what they're doing, because they're the ones that are responsible for their decisions.
Oh my gosh. Now I need you to go deeper on this. Please, please, please. So you said empower her, and I love the definition of it, but I need specific examples. As a man, what can you do? Give me something in the morning, something you do in the afternoon, something you do at night. 3 things that you can do to empower her and move her forward in everything that she's doing.
Oh man. So specific things, like you're talking about times a day, and I can't really think of anything like that. But for like one thing that you could do is whenever I get upset, for instance, and I'm in an amazing relationship and we have like the most ridiculous communication in a good way, and the energy is amazing, but there are times where I will just need to vent, or I'll need to say something, and I'll need to have a conversation. And I think too often, especially as women, we take things really, really personally, and we need to learn how to like step back from that. And it's not about taking something personal. It's about looking at it and understanding it and just finding clarity in it. So if I am venting to my boyfriend or saying something to him or having a conversation, I don't need him to fix it for me, like in the moment. I don't need him to, oh man, like just get pissed with me. I literally just need him to hold space for me and help process the situation or whatever I'm feeling. Like I think processing is a huge piece of it. And I think too often, and especially I feel like in the States, in our entire society, we are not comfortable being uncomfortable with somebody. So somebody's uncomfortable, somebody's upset, somebody's sad, somebody's mad. We're not good at holding space for other people. We want to fix it as a society in general. And we need to really step back and say, okay, you're upset and I'm listening. And kind of leave it at that most of the time. Like be okay being uncomfortable with that person, sitting in their discomfort with them, but not taking it on as something that is their own. Another thing would be, I have my preferences and you have your preferences, and having those things be okay and knowing where those things are instead of compromising who we are in order to fit into some kind of idea or situation that we think the other person wants us to. So if you love tacos and he loves ribs and you can't agree on a thing, like that's okay. You can love tacos and you can love ribs. You don't have to compromise that, or even places that you like to go. Like for me, I love quiet in my house, and my boyfriend likes to watch TV. He doesn't watch it like crazy, but he likes to watch TV, and he doesn't mind it being a little noisier. Whereas for me, like if it gets to be a level of noise that's too high, I get really, like it stresses me out and I become disconnected. And I know that about myself. So sometimes it's being able to just know those things about each other and realize them and finding creative solutions around it, or just knowing that it's going to be different sometimes and letting that be okay.
I like what you said. And I think that comes down to responsibility over freedom. I'm reading a great book called I used to be a miserable F word. I used to be a miserable fuck, right?
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Right. Angry Therapist. And he talks about how responsibility over freedom. And to me, when I hear that term, bless you, it says it to me, it sounds that like I have a responsibility for every person that I am with, right? That to make sure that I understand them and what they're going through, and the way you said of understanding their preferences, understanding what they like, and then moving the conversation forward or moving progressively forward to helping them or helping her become the best version of herself. Right. And then also in terms of also freedom is that when we get into a fight or we're talking or communicating, my responsibility isn't to make sure that like it's handled or it's over or it's done. But my job is just to be responsible to listen and just sit there and just listen and not do anything else. Even though that innate ability of men to be like, well, we got to go conquer, we got to go destroy. It's like, nope, just sit there. Okay, it's awkward. It's weird. I've never just sat in these emotions before like this. Okay, I'm just sitting with you here with this. I'm looking at you. You're looking at me. I'm hugging you. You're hugging me. And I guess I'm going to cry now too, right? Like that's what happens. And a lot of us men are not in that particular situation of doing that. So what is something that we can do to kind of get comfortable with dealing with our emotions or even just...
Oh man, men?
Yes, men.
Oh my gosh. So first of all, as a society, we just need to quit like making it dirty or shameful for men to be able to express themselves and to be sensitive. And, you know, instead of like anger and power being these huge representations of who men are, also realizing that there's another piece of them, and there always has been, that it's okay for that to be there, where they can be vulnerable and be strong at the same time. They can be sad and be happy. We all have just as many emotions, you know, just like women too. We have a masculine and feminine side, and we need to be able to tap into those things at certain times. So first of all, I think we just need to normalize it. And by normalizing that, we just have to find out, we have to really check ourselves. Like I was at an event last week and there was this little boy, and it was a smaller group of people. And there was this little boy and a little girl. The little girl was like all into dressing up and running around with her baby doll. And all of a sudden she's got the little boy doing the same thing with her. So all of a sudden he's running around with a tutu and a tiara on. And it's like looking at those kinds of situations where some people think, what are you doing? You know, those are for tiaras are for girls, you know, tutus are for girls. Well, of course he's doing that. He's got this little girl that's like 2 years older than him. He probably has a complete crush. And what else is he going to do? So they're literally just running around and not looking at it as a situation to like judge him and shame him, because that probably doesn't have anything to do with anything. He probably doesn't even realize what he's doing, but also paying attention. Like, of course boys can cry. Like, of course boys can be sensitive. Like, one of the things I love about my boyfriend is the fact that he has this incredible balance between being the strong rock for me, but also that I can see his sensitive side, and that doesn't make him weak at all. Like, it's a beautiful thing. And it allows me to lean into my strong side when I need to. You know, I can allow him to be sensitive and he can allow me to be strong, and it doesn't threaten us or define us.
Ooh, you know what? That leads us into the next point that I wanted to touch with you is this notion of there's different sides to men, right? I think us men, we are if you were to ask me, you know, who are you, Bertrand? I'd be like, oh, I'm a businessman. Like I'm a high powered, like disciplined dude, but there's so many sides and so many layers of me. Right. But as a man, and for men in general, how do we show different sides of us? When women say like, hey, I want to see another side of you, I don't want to just see this. I see this all the time, but how do we show another side of us?
I mean, first of all, I think you have to decide that it's just going to be okay, because I think of a lot of reason that you don't is because that there's some kind of fear or shame, either shame about feeling that way or fear that you're going to be treated a certain way, or even rejected if you let that more sensitive side come out. So I think, first of all, deciding that it's okay to be that, but then realizing, once you realize that it is okay, if somebody comes at you or shames you or judges you because of that thing that you've already decided is okay, that's not for you. So I do not receive that. Like, if you want to judge it, you want to shame it, cool, that's on you. It doesn't have anything to do with me. So you just continue to show up in that manner. So that, first of all, like, sets an expectation. this is who I am, and it's okay. And you're just going to have to be okay with it with me, or you're just not going to be in this part with me. And if you are okay with it, then you continue to cultivate it in that relationship. And then you'll probably find out that you'll attract more and more people that actually are okay with it, because that is the standard that you're setting. You're saying, this is who I am. Embrace it. I'm here. It's not changing. Because I think a lot of times we get hung up on acting a certain way because we're scared of how somebody's going to treat us or react to it or something else. Whereas if we all, can you imagine if we all walked around in our truth, what that would look like?
I'd be a little scary.
Because,
but it'd be a beautiful world.
Right. Because it's like, that's what we're doing. We're trying to like fit ourselves into a box for somebody else or something else. And it doesn't have anything to do with us. So of course we can't show up as who we are. So I think we just need to quit worrying about like what everybody's expectations are behind how we show up, and just show up in that capacity. And the more that we do that, first of all, again, the more permission everybody else will have to do the same. So we'll probably start seeing more of the same behavior, but people will just know, like, Bertrand's just going to be Bertrand. So like, you either got to take it or leave it. And if you're going to leave it, cool, because he's going to find more of his people.
So really, at the end of the day, really stay true to yourself, and really open up and allow yourself to open up with that.
Yeah.
I love that. And you know what? I want to ask you a funny question. Okay.
Oh, man.
I think it's so funny. So, and we were having a conversation about this, me and my friends, but I want to know, when a woman asks, what do you want to eat tonight? Right. So if you're out with your partner, you're driving, or you're at home, she's like, hey, what do you want to eat tonight? Is it your responsibility as a man to decide and to just take the lead? Is she trying to throw you like, hey, take the lead, I want to see you take the rope? Or is it a trick question for you to decide what she really wants to eat?
Okay, so there's probably 10,000 different answers to that, just to be brutally honest. So you're not going to find out, ooh, this is how I react to it. Cool, I got the answer. No, it's not like that. Again, that's just being like honest and transparent about like whatever it is. Like, I remember for me, especially during COVID, like making a meal became my labor of love. And we love food. We're huge foodies. So like, I love taking the time. I love using quality ingredients and just putting something together and pouring my love into it and then feeding it to my son and my boyfriend. But I don't want to do that 7 days a week at all. So I remember like sitting in the living room at one point, and I think my boyfriend had asked me like, what are we having for dinner tonight? And I was sitting there and I was just like, I don't want to be responsible for this decision tonight. Like, I don't care, like 4 or 5 days out of the week. Cool. I want to do it. I don't want to do it every single time. And there's not going to be any consistent, like, oh, I want to do it Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. No. But if I say that I don't feel like doing it, or if I don't want to be responsible for that decision, then that's just what it is. And my boyfriend got up, walked into the kitchen, and started cooking dinner, because that's just how we communicate. Like, when I say that this is something that I do or don't want, he listens. And so he just got up and started making dinner. So I think when it comes to like, what do you want for dinner tonight? First of all, I think that's a really normal thing for women to ask, because that's just what we've been asking forever, because for the most part, we do take care of the meals. So yeah, maybe they really do want to know. Maybe it's the fact that they don't want to be responsible for the decision, kind of like I was saying. So they're trying to ask the man. So that's one less decision they have to make. So even if they're preparing the meal, or you decide to go someplace or whatever that looks like, they asked what that you would like, and you told them, and that's one less decision there was. Or maybe it's the fact that they want to, like, that's their love language. That's their way to please you. So they ask you that because they want you to have what it is that you want, to show that they love you, to show their appreciation, to give you that labor of love. So, I mean, there's so many different ways that could be answered. It could be like, oh, this is one more thing I'm responsible for. Okay, let's show you. Like, what do you want for dinner tonight? Yep, he just told me what he wanted for dinner tonight. So I'm just, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to make dinner, instead of saying, I don't want to be responsible for that. Like, it could be so many different things. And it could be positive and it could be negative. So that just got to communicate.
I like that. Just got to communicate. That's the best way to sum it up.
Yeah.
Now, Before we get going, I really want to talk about your podcast and what you have going on. Please tell us more about your podcast, why it was started, the mission, because I can't do a better job at sharing it than you can at all. So please tell us more about it and why it's important.
Yeah. So before I started going into life coaching, I started taking some local classes in Grand Rapids at this space. It's a nonprofit called Grand Rapids Opportunities for Women, which they condensed down to GROW. So I went there and took some classes, and then you're supposed to do like a follow-up consultation to make sure you have all your ducks in a row. And so the lady that did the intro class, the lady I had my consultation with, her name is Mary C. Hartfield, and she did my consultation, and she was like, why are you here? You know, basically like all your ducks in a row. You haven't missed anything. You're killing it. What are you doing here? So we kept in contact after that. And then in February, which was about a year later, I ran into her at an event, and she jumped up out of her chair and came over to me, and she was like, oh my gosh, you know, you have been on my mind. We need to get together. And so 2 days later, we sat down and we were talking about a podcast and coaching and consulting, because she's a life coach as well. And so, yeah, we just started like talking about like what it was going to be about, what it was going to be like. And so it's called Off the Cuff Coaching Podcast. And we wanted to do off the cuff because we just wanted really, I won't say short, but just really easy to process snippets of information, where it was a very organic conversation talking about whatever it is we want to talk about. So we usually come up with certain themes that we want to talk about, but we also give ourselves permission, like if something else needs to be addressed, then we will. So for instance, like when George Floyd happened and everything really started getting heated in the anti-racism specter, we started jumping in with topics that were more themed around that, because that's what felt like the right thing to do. But in general, we talk about anything from what's the difference between your purpose and your passion, or like how does your physical space affect your mental space, and other things like that. And one of the things I love about it is that she is a Black woman and I'm a white woman. So we're also able to have those conversations where we can talk about the different sides of it, but we have such a deep respect and friendship that we can have a very open dialogue around it and also normalize those conversations. So I think that the anti-racism work, but also the life coaching work in general, is just a very organic, honest, transparent dialogue between friends and coaches so that we can normalize those conversations.
I like that. I love that, because one, we have to normalize these conversations, right? In the wake of what happened to George Floyd, which is like a super tragedy, but in the midst of what has coming out, kind of rising like a phoenix, is the conversation that we're having, right? Yeah. Whether it's on Facebook or whether it's off, where I'm more like, I love the offline things. I think it's more important to have conversations offline than online, because there's that emotion, there's that realness, there's that human connection piece. And I think your podcast is taking the lead on that as well, because those are conversations that need to be had. There's a lot of things that are built up, whether it's hurt, resentment for years on both sides.
Oh yeah,
to be addressed, you know, and we need to have those conversations, because if we never do, we can never heal, we can never move forward, and our legacy is gonna have to go through the same deal. I would say the same deal, but the same war that we're fighting now, we have to fight again and again and again. But if we get truthful and we get honest about it, and we have those conversations today, then our legacy can live a better life, or at least be progressive towards something a lot better than what we currently have right now, which it is great right now, but it's way better.
Oh yeah.
Everybody.
We should be way further ahead than we are right now. And a lot of that comes back again to communication, like normalizing the conversations. If we're not going to talk about it and be candid about it, we're just going to keep skirting the issues till the end of time. So can we please be more candid about things and normalize the fact that there are going to be different viewpoints, different accepted ways of doing things, different emotions that are going to show up, if that's okay, because we're not dealing with just a group of people. We're also dealing with individuals, no matter which side of it you're on. So there's going to be different emotions and biases and lenses and everything else that shows up in them, and that's okay. Just keep doing the work.
Yes. And Rebecca, before we tune out, what is the last words you want to share with everyone here?
Oh my gosh, the last words. really learn what your truth is, like figure out who you are on a personal level and lean into that and do it unapologetically and give that permission to everybody else. Because if we were all living our own truth, it would be such a different world and it'd be so beautiful.
Well, you guys heard it here first. Your legacy starts today, and go back and listen. All right, later.
All right, talk to you later.
Thank you, my friend, for tuning into today's episode. This means so much to us over here at the 1% Man community. Now, we want to extend a hand of gratitude to you. So I have a free gift for you. All you have to do is go to www.the1percentman.com/podcast gift. This is an exclusive gift for listeners that tune into our podcast. So go over there, get that free gift as well. And now I have two simple acts of you. One, hit that subscribe button and leave us a comment and a 5-star review, because that helps us to see what you love about the podcast, and that helps us to bolster up in the rankings so more people can find us and listen to this pertinent information that we have for men of today's age. Last but not least, I want you to go back and listen to this podcast. Find just one thing that you can implement in your life today so you can move forward. Remember, progress over perfection. And till next time, my friend, your legacy starts today.